Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm gonna let's play here. This one's gonna be a little serious than normal, and it's one that a game I saw on Steam, and again, it's the free category, so anybody can play it. And it's called Depression Quest, and reason I'm kind of doing this one because it looked really interesting, but also, you guys, if you don't know a little bit about my history, because I don't talk about it too much around on air. If you know me personally, uh, some people even close to me did never known this in my life, but I battled depression for a good number of years, and uh, went through the heartache, went through all the emotions. I'm at this on camera right now because it's now it's time to get it out there. I failed at killing myself a long time ago. I was, oh, what was I, 17? And I failed. And that was a very, very dark time in my life. And, now it's gotten so much better. My life's so much better. And it took, that and reaching out to the people that I loved and getting treatment and all that. So, guys, right off the bat, I'm just gonna read a little bit on here, and this is the just a little bit about the game, and I think it's just meant to be there. It's meant to be there to help. So, Depression Quest is a game that deals with living with depression in a very literal way. The game is not meant to be funny or lighthearted experience. If you're currently suffering from the illness and are easily triggered, please be aware that this game uses stark depictions of people in very dark places. If you are suicidal, please stop playing this game and visit the suicide prevention hotline to talk to someone. The goal of this game is twofold. First, I want to illustrate clearly possible what depression is like, so that we may better be understood by people without depression. Hopefully this can be something to spread awareness and fight against the social stigmatism and misunderstandings that depression sufferers face. Secondly, our hope is that the presenting a real simulation of depression as possible, other sufferers will come to know that they are not alone, and hopefully derive some measure of comfort from that. It goes without saying that because of the very nature of depression, it experienced differently by each person whom suffers it. We are not trying to say that this is the best or most accurate representation, merely that this was meant as an alignment of experience of the developers and several people close to them. Many of the followers encountered deal with issues such as therapy, medication, handling of love life, reaching out to support networks. In reality, less than half of depression sufferers actually seek treatment for reasons such as lack of money, perceived personal falling, or public stigma. These things were included in order to touch upon a broad range as possible, since all the elements can be very important to sufferers of depression, though they will likely not be the experiences of most sufferers. It's most important to recognize that not everyone with depression is so lucky. Many people with the illness do not have a lot of luxuries that we have in this game. We've written this in a way so that we can focus specifically on the illnesses, which become more and more difficult to deal with it at the person who has it less and less well off. This game uses audios as part of the play experience. We encourage you to play with your sound on. Thank you for playing. So just even reading that, it brings back all the memories, and that dark time, and the music's not helping as well. It's a little dim, and as I got my headphones on like normal. But here we go. Let's get this going. Maybe it's a journey not for only just me, for somebody else, and hopefully it helps you if that's what you're looking for. It's early on Monday morning. You are a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex, who you are rather fond of. You have been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circle consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of whom you met at your day job, which is a little boring, but it pays the rent. You'd like to be doing more with your life, as you would your parents, but you are still in the process of figuring out what it means and how to go about it. You are dealing with emotional issues that sometimes make dealing with these things difficult. You feel like it's possibly your fault, and on bad days you may feel inward anger on yourself for being lazy, but you're not quite sure how to break out of it or how other people deal with these feelings, and dealing with these feelings and seem so very functional. You spend a lot of nights fixating on things about this, but never seem to do anything about it other than lose sleep. It's an unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. You spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so, you found your job motivation flagging more than usual. You've been in a fog particularly all day, simply by going through the emotions without realizing even though what you are going to do half the time. Yet time seems to be moving at half speed. You are so checked out that when your bosses approach you to tell you that it's dead, you're going and you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss of the recent rainfall. You know your significant other will be in classes until late. Another couple hours at least. You briefly consider using Neptutus Solu to catch up on that project that you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. As soon as you think about work, it awaits you at home. You feel a pathetic creeping in from the back of your brain, unbidden. All you can think about is how increasingly far you are behind, and the amount of work seems to be nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive home and change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down on you like a heavy, wet wool blanket. Your computer seems to be staring down at you from your desk. You want to sit down at work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything, you feel suddenly and absolutely exhausted and feeling strong desire to order some food, grab a drink, hunker down for the night of work, reluctantly sit down at your desk trying to make yourself something. Turn on the TV, telling yourself that you need a quick half hour to unwind from work. Crawl into bed. You're so stressed and overwhelmed that you couldn't possibly accomplish anything anyways. You are depressed. Interaction is exhausting, and you will now become more and more withdrawn. You are not currently seeing a therapist. You are not currently taking medication for depression. Let's see here. That's just hiding it. Let's do 3. Just a half-hour TV, you tell yourself, absent grasping for the remote. You don't much sit down on the couch as you sink into it. You turn on the TV and start going through your usual channel routine. After a few cycles, you realize there isn't anything good on doing much more than thumbling catalytics and absolutely killing time. You check the clock to see over 20 minutes have already passed since you sat down. As you self-impose the time limit creeps ever manner, you become more and more anxious. You start up and walk to the fridge, telling yourself, I'll just make a quick sandwich and get to work after that. Can't be productive on an empty stomach, right? As you eat, you start pacing around your apartment, heading past your bedroom. In the process, you stop in the doorway as if physically unable to cross the threshold. Familiar waves of exhaustion start wrecking you and feel simultaneously tired and panicked. You close your door and head back to the couch. It's still early, you tell yourself. As long as you can get to work in an hour, I'll have plenty of time to be productive. You flip the channels and let the CSI and Jeopardy reruns wash over you and sink deeper into the couch, feeling at once encroached upon, shielded by being quite literally swallowed up by it. At the second hour draws near you, sure enough, you find yourself getting anxious and jittery. You repeat the fridge-paced couch process a couple more times before you look at the clock and realize that several hours have passed, and not surprisingly, you manage to get no work done. You crawl into bed, actually aware of the fact that you have to work in the morning and that any opportunity you had to catch up on your own creative endeavors today would squander. You feel so disgusted with yourself that when Alex calls to you on her way home from class, you simply say that you had a really rough day at work and you were trying to rest up before your shift tomorrow. She understands and wishes you a good night, although she can't help but notice something sounds slightly disappointing. Ironically, the stress potential The stress of potentially upsetting your partner compounds the stress that not only having gotten anything done this evening, but also the stress of having to go into work tomorrow. The buzz of anxiety in your brain melts together with your body, a little too physical, and you sink into a semi-hypnotic, anxious funk. Too tired to try to work, but too anxious to fall asleep for several hours. Okay. So that's obviously you are very depressed. You spend a lot of amount of time sleeping, hating yourself, and having very little energy or motivation. I know how this feeling. This is so weird. Like, this was me many years ago. So there we go. It's a mild Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of her classes, telling them that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex. You've gotten along enough, but aren't particularly close. You don't have to work in the morning and have nothing else in particular to do tonight. You are feeling kind of run down, but you've been fatigued most of the time lately. You mentioned that you are feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain those feelings to someone else, and you say that you aren't sure you can make it through the night. There's a second silence over the phone, and you can swear you can hear the sound of your partner's face falling. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestions where it hints that you can stay over with them tonight after the party. What do you do? Shake off the funk and go have a good time with your girlfriend. Agree to go. Say that you're really not feeling well and you can't make it. I know I selected the wrong one before. Let's do number 1. Oh, I can't select one? Okay, great to go. Okay. You agree to go even though you're not really feeling social. You know that it's important to Alex and you really like to see her. Seeing her does make you feel better sometimes, and you hope that in this case tonight, even if it doesn't mean dealing with it in the usual anxiety. As the time to leave rolls around and you grab your overnight bag, Alex's apartment is a short walk away. There's already people hanging out on the porch. You feel your chest tighten as you approach the building, trying to still your nerves. You quickly find your partner chatting away with the birthday girl, and Alex immediately lightens up when she sees you. I'm so happy you came. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. A young man taps on your shoulder. On her shoulder, she turns back to you to apologize and lets you know they have to do something for the party. Alex hands you a beer and plants a kiss on your cheek before going off to deal with whatever came up. You look around and you don't see anyone else you recognize. Well, you can't do one. I keep crossing out. Awkwardly stand in the same spot, unaware what to do. Put your bag in Alex's room and avoid the crowd in there for a while. Cling to the back wall, sipping your beer, and wait for your girlfriend to return. Process to drink in earnest, hoping you make less comfortable. Makes you less uncomfortable. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm not. I can run a little bit. You take the beer and shift through the crowd until you arrive in Alex's room. The room is actually empty of other partygoers, and you sit in the bed as you set your bag down. Thankfully, for the personal space and feeling a lot less claustrophobic, you mess around on your phone while you sip your beer. You keep telling yourself, I'll go back out in 5 more minutes, but every time rolls around to go back, you feel panic creep, and you stay rooted in this spot. If you figure no one here knows you anyways, so it's unlikely you'll be missed. A few minutes later, Alex comes in the room. Oh, there you are. I was wondering where you'd gone off. I figured I might find you here. She sits down in the bed next to you, buzzed enough to slur slightly. I'm really glad you turned out tonight. To be honest, I really didn't think you'd show. It's really cool you did, really. You know she meant it lovingly, but you're not quite sure how to feel at that statement. It's a little afternoon on a muggy Saturday. Your mother has come over for a surprise visit, claiming loudly she didn't see you enough, so she decided to invite herself over. As convinced, she walks around your place, and you get the distinct impression that you're being inspected. Oh, great. So what's going on with you lately? She asks abruptly. Taken somewhat back by this left field, and you tell her that you're not sure what she means. She repeats the question, saying that you haven't seemed to be yourself lately. She gestures to the dirty dishes piled in the sink and notes of the fact you haven't called or visited in a while. You rescind only to seem to spur on her more. She presses you, asking if you are having problems at work or with Alex, and you are beginning to feel increasingly battered of the sudden well-meaning or overwhelming Under her questions, you become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you are feeling, but the truth is you're not really sure yourself. Nothing horrific has happened at work or with your significant other or friends or anything like that, but they all seem you can't deny lately that you've felt drained as though you're not really there. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she's hasn't been approachable about negative emotions in the past. She's been kind of the person who holds the opinion that a solution to any problem is simply try harder to maintain a positive attitude. A stance that has reared its head in past conversations we began to explore the subject with her. You know she's really unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you when you imagine what could happen if you manage to blurt out everything about you're feeling. Okay. All crossed out is let her know that you are feeling down lately, and then you appreciate her concern. You try to be honest with her anyways. You tell her everything is fine and thank her for asking and change the subject. You know, you really need to be out there, guys. Like, if you need to tell somebody, and that's the hardest thing. And believe me, when I told somebody, it was the absolute hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the right thing for me. So here we go. I'll move my camera just a little bit. You attempt to tell your mother how you're feeling despite the initial misgivings that you had about doing so. Finding the right words for how you are feeling feels like it's trying to untangle Christmas lights, searching for the dead bulbs in the cluttered mess. She watches you intently and audibly sighs before you can clearly articulate. Unfortunately, she reacts quickly. And attitudes like that won't get you anywhere. You need to go to work harder to get what you want instead of sitting around feeling sad. Nothing good will happen unless you make it. No, that's great. She isn't angry or spiteful as she tells you this, but you try to explain that this is not a matter of that, but you can tell her that it's not getting you anywhere. The frustration chokes the words in your throat, and you give up on trying to push the subject further. You know she's giving you advice that makes sense to her and generally wants the best for you. However, she doesn't understand that this is not as simple somehow deciding the positive or work harder. It's one of those things that aren't viable options because of these feelings. You accept your defeat and conversation drifts onto other stuff. She lives after chiding you to call her more often and takes better care of herself. You sigh heavily as you close the door behind you, spend a few hours laying in bed staring at the ceiling. Oh, I'm still very, no, I'm very depressed. Oh man, that's never good. Oh, I'm doing very bad at this. Okay. It's a lazy Sunday morning. You are idly checking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a coworker of yours that you are friendly with, asks you how you are and makes a hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift color, so it's slightly awkward. You are waiting in anticipation for Andy to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation to completely different. How do you feel about cats? He asks. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awful hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. Do you have any pets? You don't have any pets, right? It takes you a moment to process the situation. You're caught off guard as he begins to earnestly try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. It's not something you had specifically considered before, but he seems finally insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people. She got all of her shots already taken care of, and the vet said she's healthy as a horse. I can bring her over to your place tonight if you're interested. You look around the apartment and try to picture a cat and what continues to tell you about how cute she is. You tell him that this is all kind of a sudden, that you don't have any of the kittens set up here. Oh, don't worry about that. I'll bring over a little box of food and all of it since you will help me on a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter. Wow, I really have no options here. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give some serious consideration. It does get awfully lonely around your apartment. It might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on a responsibility cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. Do something. Doing crazy. I'm gonna get the cat. You accept the offer of the kitten and hang up shortly after making arrangements for when your coworker can drop her off tonight. After hanging up, you worry about you've suddenly taken on a responsibility that you can't handle, and hope that you don't make a small animal suffer for it. You're not entirely sure what to expect. You spend the rest of the afternoon researching cat care online and trying to think of a name. The evening rolls around and you hear a knock at your door, startling you out of reading Wikipedia entries too hard. You take possession of a small, terrified black and white kitten and carry her along with everything you need to take care of her. You take her to your bedroom, close the door, and open the door to carry her. Accidentally, the cat cowers in the back of it, and you back off, feeling slightly defeated. You remember that you researched on introducing a kitten into a new home and leave her alone and go mess around with the computer, hopefully checking your shoulder so often to see if she come up. She hides inside her carrier periodically, making skullful cat howls long enough for you to start worrying that she's already doesn't like you, but the time you go to the bed, she's curled up at the foot of it, eyeing you nervously before falling asleep. Over the next few days, you gain her trust and she begins to actually follow you around, sleeping on you, hopping on you anytime you sit down to do some work. Oh, what a great cat. Let's see. So, and you hate yourself and you have very little emotion, so it's kind of in the same spot. Wow, I went from Sunday to Friday. It's late Friday afternoon. The quilting time is just when I got quilting. That's two different things. A bright, clear day has given way to still, temperate evening. You can hear your co-workers all around you anxiously making plans for their evenings and weekends, but you're really looking forward to just going home and resting for what has turned out to be a very long and taxing work week. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. It seems that a group of your mutual friends are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner and drinks to celebrate the end of the weekend. They want to know if you're coming along. You tentatively tell her that you are emotionally exhausted from the week and a social outgoing like that would just take too much of your day. You encourage her to go and have a good time since you know it's been a while since you've gone out with friends. But the effort feels futile since you know she's not going to go out without you. A couple hours later, the two of you find yourself in the familiar position on the couch watching comedy shows on Netflix, a box of pizza open on the coffee table in front of you. You look across the couch later to her. She's starting to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight again. While you are always appreciative of your partner's efforts to take your feelings into account, you make sure that you are socially comfortable. And you sincerely worry that you are holding her back from enjoying a fulfilling relationship. While she does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as if the two of you sit comfortably, almost condensed silently watching old shows you've seen 2 or 3 times before, you ever increasingly fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided, weighs more and more heavily on you. You feel more and more like the burden or the weight is virtually impossible for you to see what value you could possibly offer to her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever. Withdrawing ever inwards, you are started by pulling even away from Alex herself. What do you do? Oh my gosh, I have no options. This is not good. Despite the bad times of girlfriends, Cecilia loves you. Relationships are a two-way street, and you resolve the ways. I can't do that one until Alex how important she is. Oh, balls. Ask also if she's happy with the relationship. Don't say anything you already worry about her being upset with you. Let's talk. You look over at Alex, who hasn't noticed you're watching her yet, and you try to parse the expression on her face. You worry that it's one of sheer boredom and bare tolerance. You wonder if she's thinking about all the fun things she could have done tonight if she wasn't trapped in this couch with you, ordering from the same 3 takeout places that you always order from. A slight sense of disappointing her creeps over her as you picture what night she could have had and just accept the invitation that she made earlier. I know this is a pretty boring Friday night for you. Are you really happy being with me? Being like this? She turns to you forward, forehead wrinkled. Why do you ask me that so often? You feel her body stiffen and pull away from yours just a little bit. Well, I mean, you start but are unable to think. Try to think. like any of these options. I don't like any of these options. This is hard. Like, this is hard, guys, man. I'm just... Here we go. Alex says, look, if we were that case, I would let you know. I don't think you are boring. You're more of a homebody than I am. I'm learning how to deal with that. Deal with it, you think? Repeating the mind. Does she see you as a problem to deal with? You try to pick her reply apart in your mind as if all of your conclusions lead to your previous worry that you're holding her back. You begin to think that phrases was chosen without too much deliberation, and that despite her attempts at reassuring you, the slips of the tongue revealed her true feelings. As you picture how much how much fun she would be having without you right now, you only accept her invitation and manage to somehow get over your reservation anxiety. By not knowing how you would go about that, she cuddles back to you. Thanks for putting up with me, you say, staring at the TV without actually watching. She sighs in response. You are deeply depressed. Even the activities you used to enjoy hold little in our interest to you. Oh man, this is really bad. And you exist in a near constant state of, that's, this is where I just used to be, guys. Like, this is hitting hard. And next. It's a breezy afternoon. You've allowed Amanda, the old friend from school that is in town for the week, to talk you into leaving the house for coffee and catch up. You meet her at a small cafe and talk about what you've been up to since you last see each other. You can't help but feel like you were a lot more accomplished and interesting while you were listening to them talk about their life after school. When you turn to brief them on your activities, you feel anxious and ashamed that you give very little a very abbreviated version. You try to talk about your job as little as possible, and you feel increasingly boring while you describe it, despite her expression interest in you in your life. Amanda has known you long enough to read your mood and tone. She leans in to ask a question while gently touching your hand. A look of general concern if I say, what's wrong? What do you... Well... No, you don't insist that nothing's wrong. Defensively ask what she means by that, no. Let's see here. It's such a small question, but it feels like a blow to the gut. You surprise yourself when you realize that you tightly clenched your fists are now beginning to shake slightly. Despite your best efforts, you feel tears being sliding from your eyes. You try to disguise it by tilting your head up and praying that they stuck behind it. Again, she suggests that you two get out of here. You feel mortified. She offers to go back to your apartment with you, but the two of you end up talking in the car for 2 hours as words just pour from your mouth. Amanda seems unsure of what to say at times, but she listens and rubs your back as you sob and talk. She asks if you've gone to the doctor about this, and you admit that you haven't. She mentions that your mother is seeing a very good therapist in town and offers to ask her about it. You're not thrilled about the idea of going to the therapist, even less thrilled that Amanda might be telling someone about your problem, but she persists and tells you that she'll email you the doctor's contact information later this week. Okay, nothing's changed than what before. It's a glaring Sunday Monday, and one in the few days that your brother Malcolm's in town free long enough for you to actually see each other. You have a dental appointment that day, but you make plans for him to pick you up afterwards. Your appointment takes a little longer than expected because your dentist tells you that you're starting to grind your teeth in your sleep to a worrying degree. Given how nearly everything in your life has begun feeling emotionally stressful lately, it does come as a surprise to you. He suggests that you try to reduce your stress levels and fits you with a knife guard. It feels awkward and too big for your mouth, and You feel embarrassed looking at your puffed out face in the mirror with you. You finish the appointment in a hurry and leave about a half hour overdue for your meeting. You always punctual brother in the parking lot. No, that's all my brother. You finish up as quickly. Is this my life? Like this is guys, this is like hitting my life, which is really weird. It's just not the same time frame, but it's just odd. I didn't have a girlfriend either, so I didn't. But man, this is hard. These guys are pretty good. You finish up quickly as possible and leave the building to scan the parking lot for your brother's car, but you don't see his old Civic anywhere. You pass by a blue Camaro and jumps as it beeps at you, causing you to jump to surprise. It takes you a moment to realize it, but Malcolm's in the driver's seat. What? My brother would drive a Camaro, probably not. You hop in the passenger seat and compliment him on the new ride. He mentions to you that it's a perk of the promotion he recently obtained at work. He starts to tell you about how much money he's making, how his career is really taking off, and how he's starting to look at houses with his wife suit. You clutchily continue the night guard in your hand and feel yourself clench your teeth as you think of your coming apartment, how long it's been since you've been able to take a day off of work without having to worry about making ends meet. He's only 2 years older than me, but it feels like he's eons ahead of you in every aspect of your life. So, he asks, how'd your appointment go? Did you get drill full teeth or what? I don't know. That's not to lie to your brother, so. It is, and I'm apparently grinding my teeth too much when I sleep. Oh, Michael probably has been stressed out lately, kiddo? Deciding you're not really going to go to it, you tell him that you don't think it's the case, and you're probably just a random thing. He doesn't pry farther and insists on being reminiscent with you about the time you chipped a baby tooth because you actually knocked you over once. Yeah, that's my brother's older than that, but yeah, my brother talked me out. He didn't, but you go out for dinner and catch up on things, but you still feel somewhat distrained about the gnawing anxiety in the back of your mind. Although you enjoy your brother's company, you still feel like you want nothing more than to go home and hide from the world tonight. It becomes hard for you to try to do stuff with all the horrible feelings down and emotions when someone like your dad can see the fraction of what's going on inside your head, it leaves you feeling embarrassed and weak, and you hate yourself for feeling that way. You wonder if you're really fooling anyone into thinking you're a normal person, and when you wonder if your brother knows and is hanging out with you out of pity tonight. After he drops you back to your apartment, you throw your night guard out. You can't stand it even looking at the thing. Nothing's changed from before. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a dry Sunday morning. You grab your morning coffee and scoot your rapidly growing kitten off your office chair, and despite your protest, sit down to your desk and check your email. A new message pops up in your inbox almost as soon as you do. It's from Amanda. You remember meeting her at the cafe, awkwardly bringing up the feelings. Hey, buddy. Hey, sorry it's been a few weeks. I meant to get this to you, but look, it took a while for me to get a hold of my folks back home. My dad told me to say hi, by the way. Anyway, remember what I talked about to you last time? I saw you and I hoped you weren't insulted, but I asked your mom for the number of our therapist. Don't worry, I didn't tell her it was for you. I think she's worried about me, though. Ha ha ha. Anyway, here's the number. It's a really good office. You should look into it. Talking to someone never hurts. If you're worried about the money, don't be. This is one of the few that has really good sliding scale fee system that won't charge you if you can't afford it. I hope you're feeling better. It was really nice to see you. Hey, it's still early enough that you could call and make an appointment today. Your curtain close the door and consider what to do. I don't. You sleep on. I want one. That's what I want. You try your luck and call the number, even though there was a mere thought of taking to someone makes you. I like one. Sleep on it and see how you're feeling in the morning. You're not keen on the idea at all, but you don't want to disappoint Amanda. You close the email without thinking anymore. No, 3's the worst. 4's the worst. 3's bad. The thought of you picking up the phone and calling someone about this right now is overwhelming. Sure, you've had a hard time lately and have motivation issues, but you are really going to need therapy. Shouldn't you be able to just get over yourself? What if you were to put on medication that makes you feel like a zombie? What if you go and a therapist looks down upon you? What will Alex think about this? Trying to think about all these things at once makes you feel a little like a very big deal, and you decide to take time to think about it. The rest of the day passes quickly, and the night you had a hard time trying to sleep because your brain is too busy thinking about all the things, imagining all the ways it could possibly horribly go wrong. You check your email again with a blurry eyes and a mute kitten. Amanda's email is still there, seemingly waiting for you. You have no more decided than yesterday. What do you do now? Just call it already. It can't hurt you. Call. After wrestling with it for a few minutes longer, don't call. It's way too much for you to be able to deal with right now. You read through Amanda Easy 2 or 3 times and then sit and stare at your computer for a while the memory of that uncomfortable conversation makes you feel newly embarrassed and self-conscious. Part of you is also encouraged by the fact that she cared enough to get back to you at all. So even from the beginning, you start to question things like whether or not Amanda sent you this number out of pity or perhaps some sense of obligation having to listen to you. You question her motivations and vaguely of her concern and whether or not you think seeing a therapist would even help. Yet, almost unconsciously, you reach your phone and before realizing what's happening, you're listening to the therapist's line ring. Before you can bring yourself to hang up, you listen to this slightly clinical but unpleasant voice on the receptionist and how it can help you. I'd like to make an appointment with the doctor. You manage to stammer out. This conversation is quick and unpleasant as you refrain quicker than you can say Floridian slip. You scheduled an appointment. Quicker than you realize appointment day rolls around. What do you do? Head to the therapist's office even though you're totally unsure what to expect. Sit in your car terrified and try to talk yourself into it. Just the thought of going to your appointment ties your stomach in knots. You crawl back into bed. I need to go. You have your first session with your new therapist, Dr. Susan Melville, a tall woman in her mid-40s with a disarming demeanor and a patient eyes with her slightly smile. She makes you feel comfortable fairly easily with such a pleasant surprise after all your anxiety over the appointment. As you leave, you make a second appointment. You still skeptical about all of this, but you figure you might as well see where this goes. The hardest part, it seems, is taking the first step. You're still not sure of how you're going to tell your family or partner, but you figure you'll deal with that when time comes around. Either way, you feel relieved that you managed to see this through instead of being paralyzed with worry over. Even if nothing comes out of it, you did something you said you would instead of flaking out or running away. You're emotionally exhausted when you get home and collapse into bed. You sleep better that night than you have in a week, and you're not sure if it's because you were so tired when you got home or if it's because of the therapist. Okay, so things have changed. So you're very depressed. You seem a large amount of time sleepy and hating yourself, and have very little more energy and motivation. You spend some time on the therapist's couch. You having a difficult time finding a motivation to continue going through your sessions. You are not currently taking medication. So it's early on Wednesday morning. Lately, you've developed a nasty habit of waking up 10 to 20 minutes before your alarm rings, and unfortunately today is no exception. You lay in bed each minute, ticking closer and closer to wake up time and passing on a swelling wave of ever-encroaching dread. Sooner than you would like, your alarm blares a caustic note. You frankly pondered the snooze button and then retreat under your blankets as if a warmth and comfort can shield you from your passage of time. You almost always have difficult rising from bed, but today it's the simple task of seems nothing short of an hallucination. Well, after several snooze cycles, you decide that you just can't deal with work today. You're incapable of even rousing yourself from bed, let alone going to work and having you force yourself through the workday. Not to mention you've snoozed so many times that it would be almost impossible to make it on time. Now, what do you do? because if you do 2, you're going into work. But if you do 2, they might get concerned that you're taking a day off. Let's do 2. I don't know. In spite of the fact that your body is actively fighting you for the air to step away, you somehow manage to drag yourself out of bed and make your way to work. Surprisingly, you end up only being about 5 minutes late and nobody seems to notice or care. Although, when you woke up, the simple act of being even physically present at your job seemed like an impossibility. You are surprised at your own ability to push your way through the day while you are far from enjoying or indeed even really coping with the dullness of your job today. You seem to have slipped into a trance-like state of automation, and time has nevertheless passing. Even though the end of the day is rolls around, you head home, utterly exhausted, but at the same time almost proud of yourself for having stuck it out. You are depressed. Interaction exhausting. Oh, okay, I'm getting better. I'm not very depressed anymore. So, sorry guys, I know this is going a little longer, but this is what I want to do, and this is the video that I want to work on. So, here we go. It's 2 a.m. on Sunday, and you have work in the morning. You roll out to see a slick green glow of time displaying your LED alarm like a little accelerating sign. You've been trying to sleep for over 3 hours now to know that each time your head hits the pillow, you overcome with anxious thoughts and wrap themselves around each other. Worried about your job leads to worries about your future, leads to worries about your very identity. You are unable to shake them off long enough to doze off. Your eyes won't even stay shut as your mind races through the imagined scenarios of horribly going wrong, which you promptly attribute to your general worthlessness. Your thoughts run too fast as you come to satisfying conclusion that on any of one of them. Your room is completely silent, but the silence is given way to a loud static noise rattling around inside your head. Your head beats loudly and worry about beating too fast. You worry that if you focus too strongly on that racing heart, you'll freak yourself out hard enough to have a heart attack. Wow. I have no options. You have only been awake for a few hours. You have been awake for work in a mere 8 hours, and you know that work is so much worth with only a few hours sleep. What do? Wow. That is like the worst option I could possibly afford to sleep, go to bed. Guys, this is hitting emotion again. Like I'm sitting just sorry, just taking a second because I'm not trying to make this video longer. It's just this is really hitting, back home so bad. I'm not getting depressed. It's just if I knew where I'd be here now when I was there then, life would be so much different. But maybe that's made me who I am, and maybe maybe this helps one of you guys. I don't know. We'll continue on, and I'll finish my thought when at some point it ends. I guess it ends at some point. It has to. You get out of bed and head to your desk. Lying in bed with nothing with your thoughts to keep you company makes you feel like you're going insane. The harshness of the light coming from your screen makes you squint as you turn around, despite how you often find yourself in the exact situation. There's been so many nights lately like this. As you begin reading news stories, an online friend IMs you. You're up late, I see. Yeah, I can't sleep. Again. Thinking too much? You guessed it. Want to talk about it? You end up talking with Attic for some quiet time about how you've been feeling. He's always been easy to talk about personal health, and the asker you're talking online helps. Being able to rethink what you say as you type out and checking before you send it out and helps gather your thoughts. As you find less than too many ways to type, it all prompts. I don't want you to be that guy who thinks they can diagnose something because I read a Wikipedia article, but this kind of sounds like you might have depression. You should talk to someone about that, like a doctor. You pause. Are you really that transparent, or have you gotten used to talking about your feelings at this point. Your insomnia makes you feel a little paranoid, but you shake it off. We can do some research and see if there's a good doctor near you. It's not like you're going back to sleep anytime soon anyways. Might as well do something while you're awake. This is actually just a low night. You seem at 3. Oh, okay. I'm glad to see you taking that step. It's a hard one. I heard it's not an easy one. I know people kind of stuck at understanding this sort of stuff sometimes, but there's nothing wrong with having depression. You would be ashamed to have bronchitis. You wouldn't be ashamed to have bronchitis or something, so there's no reason you should be ashamed if your brain is that sick instead. Wow, this guy is. You spend a few more minutes talking with the addict about your therapy and your feelings about it. He's incredibly supportive, and you're happy to find that you are confident and understands your illness and willing to lend an ear when you're having nights like this. A little while later, you fall back into sleep, kitten in tow, and find it easier to drift off to sleep. Even in therapy, you know you're still going to have nights like this sometimes. It's good to know you have a friend who will help you carry through them. That's good. It's a chilly Thursday night, and you've gotten off of work. This has felt more like the longest day you've faced in recent months. Even though nothing exceptional has happened, a ton of minor things keep going wrong, and coworkers have tried your patience throughout the day. You consider leaving work early, but the last thing you need to do was to deal with your insufferable boss on top of everything else. You're lost in the thought on the commute to home, and your feelings frustrate both you and your friends and the world around you as you build and to run into mere annoyances like someone bumping into you really hard the way you walk. By the time you get home, you're exhausted, remembering that these feelings are the ones you identified as negative feedback loop with your therapist. These pent-up feelings are dying down and it's eating you. You open the front door and stare at your apartment, and overwhelming feeling of exhaustion overcomes you, and you feel like the energy levels are low enough that you're likely to settle into a single activity. What do you do? Your head feels too noisy and you need to trade it for some actual conversation. Your therapist did say it was important to reach out to your support network, as you might as well give it a shot. Who do you call? Your mother. She's unconditionally loves you, even though she doesn't always understand you. She's your girlfriend. He's family. He's fun to talk with. And I don't like either 3 of these options. You dial Alex, who picks up after only 2 rings. She asks if he has time. She tells you that she's just hanging around in her PJs and is actually somewhat bored for once due to being caught up on her coursework. You try to find out where to start and how you're feeling, and you overcome with missing her face. You ask her if she feels like grabbing some dinner, and you notice her barely constant surprise and delight on the other end of the line. You meet about half hour later as an expensive dinner not far from your apartment. While the food is not great, you're surprised at how much your mood seems to have elevated just being in company. While at first you are extremely hesitant about talking about your job situation for fear of being burdensome, of sounding like a whiner, you see her listening intently to you with what even you seem to be a genuine concern. After winding down with a beer, you cautiously open up a bit more about your feelings surrounding your job, how drained it feels leaving you, and how you feel like you're simply existing, selling days of your life for no real purpose. You surprise even yourself when you start to talk about how frustrated and stymied you feel at your job, how you used to feel passionate about things, about feeling your energy and capacity, or trying to getting enriched out of some each and every day. You can't remember how long it's been since you've externalized this much. So much on the 2 of you spend hours several hours in dining, long after you have half-eaten food was cleared and the waitress stopped refilling your coffee cups. As you get up to leave, suddenly a wave of self-consciousness washes over you and you suddenly feel increasingly awkward, and then Alex stands up and grabs you tightly around your waist. You realize that short of boring her with your seemingly endless rants, she simply happy to have gotten a chance to spend real time with you. And it's been all accounts incredibly too long since you allowed yourself to be open like this. There's an almost palpable feeling and closeness that allows you to hold on to you as you go tonight. It's an utterly non-scripted Wednesday. Oh, wow, that's another word. A type of afternoon that would completely fade from memory unless one made an active effort to preserve it. You have become routine on Wednesdays. You are sitting on the couch in Dr. Melvin's office. To your mild surprise, she begins the session by breaking her character's therapeutic sign and bringing up speaking ready. I want to start by saying I think it's great that you decided to come see me. It's increasingly important first step, she begins. I wanted you to take some time today and talk about possibly supplementing or substituting your treatment with medication. The mention of medication feels your ears perk up and you feel your heart rate increase, and she continues. Many people find adding a pharmacological element to their treatment is very helpful. Some even prefer to take the drug, completely eliminating their need to visit a therapist at all, providing you rely on your support network and still reaching out to people. I would prefer if we kept talking, but you should choose so I can monitor your progress and adjust the needs, but there is a choice ultimately is yours. I just want you to run the option by you to gauge your thoughts and matters and be. Okay. Accept the prescription as a way and augment your therapy. Tell her that you'd like to try the drug instead of therapy. These weekly sessions have always made you more than a little uncomfortable. The thought of messing with your brain chemicals seems something that you stick with therapy. The whole therapy thing has always overwhelmed you, and this time, the final straw, you're done with it now. Having prescription and having someone do that's the best option. So you think the matter long and hard. It's strange to think that you originally none of this sort of thing even was on your radar, and here you are now being asked to make a decision about this. You are both skeptical and nervous, still getting over the initial shock of even talking to a therapist, but still over the years you've done enough entry-level reading on the subject to know that if it doesn't help, at least it probably won't hurt, right? After an intense and proactive period of initial medication, you decide that to bite the bullet and go for it. You talked about that you'd like to try medication in addition to your therapy, and you spend without half an hour going over what you'd like to talk about and what do you expect from it. Thinking back on the decision later, you're pretty sure that you had your fist tightly clenched the whole time. Okay, you're hoping that'll work, okay? It's a Wednesday evening and you're visiting your parents' house for a holiday. It's one of the handful of times during the year you drive out to visit your old hometown. You've seen random people that have gone to school with around town. Whenever bumping into them, the usual short conversations of what you're doing since graduating has exchanges. You've gone through a few of these today and have been aware of how much you feel you haven't accomplished. When you were in high school, you had much larger plans. You feel like you have failed to manifest most of them. Even if you've managed to, you've largely lost interest in what you thought you'd want to be growing up. No, you're not really sure what you want to do, but you feel like you're lacking in some ambition and drive to figure it out. Everyone you've caught up with seems much happier than you. It's like they've got their lives all figured out. You've kindly been feeling like a failure in compassion. Your brother Malcolm arrives with his wife in tow shortly after you all sit down to dinner. He's been traveling for his job lately, and you haven't seen him since the day he picked you up from the dentist. Your parents haven't seen him since before then. During the dinner, they all catch up, and Malcolm talks about the amazing thing he's done on the road. Your mother turns to you and asks what you've been up to since you've seen last. Oh, same old, same old. They say nothing new really going on. Your mother makes a face. Oh, nothing new? How long are you planning to stay at the job of yours? You say, tell them about the new job you're gunning for. Tell them what you want to hear, that you are actively looking for more to admit that you don't know what you want to do. I think that's perfectly honest, I don't really want that answer, but there we go. Actually, you start to really, I'm not really sure what I want to do right now. Your mother puts down her fork. So you're planning on living the way you do for the rest of your life? How would you afford a house on that paycheck? What about kids? Your father interrupts slightly, placing his hands over her mother. It's okay, Linda. Let the kids do what they be what they are. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what you want to do in your 20s. I did not get into construction until I was nearly 40. Your mother looks across the table at you, unsatisfied with her husband's reasoning. I don't think it's normal for someone your age not to have a path. You need to think hard about it, or you'll never make anything yourself. Mom, come on. This emotionally exhausts you, but you want to hear that you are thinking hard, and not knowing what you're going to do with yourself bothers you more than it could ever bother her. It's something it feels like you're lost in the woods, and that you were to drop dead in your apartment that wouldn't notice. You'd want to make her understand that more often than not you feel like an alien, like there's isn't anywhere in the world that feels like the place you belong where you belong. You had no idea how to fix her what to do. You wish you could find the words she could understand. Being locked down that kind of kills you. Instead, you get very quiet for the rest of the meal while your mind goes numb. Everything inside you feels exhausted. It's a rainy night. You hurry through Alex's apartment at her behest. Although your pace is quick, the rain is steadily soaking up your pant legs as you traverse down, and it's darkening you already poor mood. The call came while you were at home after a day of dealing with abnormal, frustrating people. You'd spent the afternoon trying to unwind and get some work on your project done. Alex calls and interrupts you and says, "Try to make progress. Getting frustrated at not making progress, having a harder time making progress due to frustration," repeats, loops in your head. You haven't fully shaken off the feeling of being annoyed at yourself lately. You knock on her door, and the third knock, here's her voice call from further in the apartment to come on in. As you cross the threshold, tripping rather in the way, you notice that the lights are turned down very low in the apartment. You squint to navigate as you clutch your damp umbrella, but end up hitting your shin on the table. Sorry, that's funny. I'm trying to be serious. Sorry, guys. And mumbling a profanity under your breath, you barely make out Alex emerging in the hallway, clad in what looks to be a robe with a bare skin of her legs. Apparently, why don't you come on in and warm up? As she asks, the slightly cheesy, sexy voice. After a breath of silence, she states that, well, actually, my roommates are out of town this weekend, so I thought it might be nice to have a little fun while they're away. You appreciate her affection, but you are too wrapped up in your own negative feedback loops to be in the mood right now. Let go of your strap. I like 1. 2's not bad. You look at her standing barely lit and notice there's a few candles scattered around the apartment. It occurs to you that she has tried to make the night special for the two of you, even though you had a tight knot of antisocial frustration in your stomach. Seeing how much she cares makes you want to be able to melt away so you can show her how much you care and how she's done through all this trouble. However, you desperately need to shift gears first before even that's possible. You look amazing. Let's have a drink together. She's just hoping that it'll give you the push you need to get in the mood. You go to the kitchen and pour 2 drinks. Try to focus on letting your bad mood. You sit down on the couch next to her as she cuddles up to you instantly. Should we toast? She asks to her drink. You think for a moment, passing up the cheesy to us option to say what's on your mind, letting go of your bad day tonight. The two of you cheers, and you ask her about her day. Conversation turns flirtatious, and the two of you find yourself in the bedroom shortly after. Good job, man. You find yourself having trouble getting through things physically with her, and remember that dismal arousal was the possible side of your medication. You were hoping that you were part of the population that wouldn't be affected by it, but it seems as though you were not the case. However, you were able still to enjoy the closeness of God, falling asleep closer to happily. Oh, that's good. Oh, man. It's an early winter evening, even though you're not particularly late. The time of the year has let the sky almost prematurely darkness cast. Day after day, just like today, you trug home from your job you've increasingly come to hate. On this day, your job misery seems to have reached a critical mass. You're not even shedding your later and uncomfortable work clothes lets you unwind from the workday. You collapse on the couch, blank and numb, while your job seems to be an unpleasant reality of existence. It was a position of your short to feel unexpectedly never intending to work the long term, and it's getting harder and harder to keep it up. While it's certainly not your dream job, you've always been sort of stuck out of the necessity before. It's become increasingly difficult to do that. Although you couldn't have begun to imagine what else you could do, you find yourself face to face with a question you can't ignore. Is your complacency worth this level? Let me see, what do you do? Sounds like class offense. You boot up your computer and navigate to the local Craigslist. You shift through a myriad of legitimate postings, clear pyramid scams, and occasional miscategorization of random personal ad. You look through the section that's in line with your current job. You start feeling a bit of despair. Would things really be different if you were simply doing the same thing somewhere else? You email your resume to a few postings after coming up with a cover letter that you could use for a variety of things. After you've exalted the postings for the last few days, you head back to the main page. There's a section more in line with the project you've been doing, even though it's a highly competitive creative field and you don't feel remotely qualified for. Despite that, you click on the section, scrolling through the postings that you daydream about actually holding the position where you would get to do something more meaningful. Despite the feeling completely intimidated by the requirements, you find a listing you actually want to apply for. You spend an hour crafting a really personal cover letter and giving you all to the task. Nervously send off the email. You'd rather convince you'll never hear back from any of the places, but the act of trying to change your situation instead of stewing actually feels quite freeing. You find yourself trying to stifle the hope and end up getting the creative job, but you simply manage to bubble anyway. It's a little past 8 p.m. on Tuesday night. You're at your computer, frustrating level peaks rubbing your eyes slightly heavy. You're working on a project from your job that has stretched to wit, trying to meet the looming deadline. As it looks closer and closer, you seriously doubt your ability to get home. You get it done. You're done dragging your feet with a little work due, with a complete lack of energy lately, in spite of wanting to do a good job. You find yourself unable to push it past. You feel horribly useless for it. You slide your hands off your face and look to the screen and helps you. Hey, are you there? I really need to talk to you about something. You feel like you're getting nowhere with your current task and you could probably use a break. However, you know you've had a history of getting distracted and then losing motivation to pick up something back afterwards. What do you do? That's the answer. You feel like you've hit a brick wall on your task, so why not take a break and help out a friend? Hey, what's up? Oh, good, you're there. I just found out I got cheated on. I don't know what to do. Oh no, that's horrible. The two of you talk for a long time and lend a shoulder to your friend. You give him space to rant, cry, and more importantly be able to voice his inner trauma. You give him your full attention and talk to him through what his options are for what he does next. You keep him from doing something rash, and the two of you decide it's best for him to get sleep on it without doing anything. Exhausted, he departs for bed and thanks you for being there to talk to him. As you close the item, you feel horribly sorry for your friend, but happy that you're able to help him. It serves as a tangible reminder that you're capable of being useful to somebody instead of solely being a mess and what needs to help everyone. You put up your work project and find you all of a sudden to get the solid progress done that night. Guys, because as I'm reading this, it's the medication, the therapy that's working. If you don't know about it, and you're like, I don't know if I want to be antidepressants. Antidepressants just don't take them and you instantly change. It takes a long time for you to get work, and you slowly feel your body change, and that's what's going on here, and I can see it, and it's it's doing wonders in his life, as I can see. And I am selecting the things, but as I'm reading them, I can, that's what I can see, and that's happy, and bring me back to the times that I was taking it, and you know. And again, I'll talk about it more in the video. Than I know this is a long video, but I hope this, maybe this helps somebody, and maybe I'll talk about my own stuff. And I talked about it a little in the beginning, but I'll talk about more at the end. It's Sunday afternoon and you're deep in thought on the way home from therapy. However, you notice that it's time that you're not the same negative feedback loops that usually get you trapped when you're being introspective. You realize that although you still have your bad days, your lows aren't quite as low as they used to be. Your antidepressant rolls across your dashboard as you take a left turn. You've been on this medication for quite a while now, after a period of trying a few different kinds. Although you still have minor side effects, they're overall become a noticed part of your life. You feel as if your life has generally changed for the better recently. I'm beginning to wonder if you need them anymore. You don't feel as much despair and hopelessness, and you hate yourself a lot less these days. Maybe it's time to stop taking these, you think. It seems I'm not really needing them anymore. What do you do? And you always continue, even when you feel better, you continue taking the medicine until you talk to your doctor that's prescribed them, and then, they think it's better. You have the realization that you can't be sure if your general life has changed and making you feel better, or if it's just a sign of the medication working. You decide against discontinuing your meds. It's not necessarily a lesson you'd like to learn the hard way, and the side effects of this particular kind are negatable. The next time you see Dr. Milne, you tell her about this. She informs you that this is a common train of thought in people who have begun using medication to help them manage depression, and that you managed to dodge a bullet because this generally ends poorly. Oh, that's right. She asks you to talk to her first about making decisions about your medication in the future. Okay, let's see. Sorry, good messages. This is yet another sleepless Thursday night. You're at Alex's apartment, awake in bed as she's sleeping peacefully beside you. You fall asleep. She fell asleep hours ago. You've been lying here, unable to shut your brain off long enough to fall asleep. You've added feelings of uncertainty about your relationship with the rest of your noise in your head, keeping you up tonight. It was kind of tense between the two of you. You arrived after a stressful day of work, and as if you made dinner together, you barely said a word. You were stuck in your own head and had a hard time really being present as your thoughts turned all the way to feel like you've deficient of being a good person and being yourself mentally for each one. She told you that she could tell you were in one of those moods and said that she wasn't going to push you, but she missed talking to you as the two of you sat on the couch together. She wanted to tell you how much you loved her, but you couldn't make the words come out right, and ended up sounding defensive instead. As you lie next to her now, you trace her fingers across your arms. Your fingers across her arm, you just slightly enough to not wake her. You still haven't explained your depression to her and how you feel start seeing a therapist. And you've been taking medication that's started to feel more and more like a secret you've been keeping instead of something she simply did not know about yet. It's become more and more apparent that it's impacting your relationship with her, and you feel guilty about this. However, you are terrified if she knew exactly how you fucked up and that she would leave you. You already worry that she's only there because she doesn't realize how terrible a person you are yet, and you're afraid that you will finally think. She stirs in her sleep and squints as she opens her eyes with the confusion that comes with waking up. She asks you if you're awake, and you say everything's okay. You feel like a jerk for accidentally waking her, but you're afraid if you pull this off any longer, you won't find strength in your tongue or anything. No, actually, everything is okay. Can I tell you something important? Alex sits up, rubbing sleep out of her eyes. For the rest of the night, you sit side by side, holding hands. You tell her everything. She tells you how it's more. Tell her how it's more than just a feeling sadness. Sometimes you feel trapped by your own mind sometimes, and how sometimes you feel nothing at all, and how you can't shake it off. You tell her how you started going through therapy, how you feel embarrassed about it, and how it's worked out for you. She listens the entire time, occasionally asking questions about how this how this or that works or asking how to explain something further. She squeezes your hand and tells you she understands and that she's sad you didn't tell her sooner. After lying silent for a moment, the weight of what you did hits you. You desperately want her to say something. You tell her how she's feeling about all this, but you're too afraid of what to answer or what to ask. You start convincing yourself that now she knows everything, she's going to leave. There's no way someone could deal with this how you really are. So how can I help? What do you need from me? She asks. You think for a second and the answer to the question comes and fills you with. I honestly don't know. I wish I knew how to fix this, but I don't know that you could do anything. I think it's something I just have to live with. She looks at you with sad eyes before kissing you, but then I'll live with it. Live with it with you. I don't know how you could possibly love me. She rolls over and wraps her arms around your neck, settling your head on top of yours. You don't need to. Just know I do. It's a Friday night and you're laying across your bed feeling pathetic. As you leave work tonight, a group of coworkers ask you if you wanted to join them for drinks, feeling antisocial, and when it's out you decline. You have a habit of doing this. You are so often convinced that you are weird and terrible that any invitation hanging out with the end is a poised point of waiting for. Oh my gosh. Okay, so find yourself then. Okay, so I do have to. It just seemed to loop, but it didn't. You never really like to know your active group in outings, and you feel like a total creep since it seems to come so naturally that no one to anyone who isn't you. You find yourself petrified at breaking some unknown social rule that you often don't go out. Now, however, you find yourself home alone. Your brain has begun to tell you how pathetic and sad you are feeling, unable to be a normal person and go out with a nice person. You can't figure out why, but you just can't go out and meet people and enjoy yourself. At the same time, you also feel like no one would possibly want to hang out with you if they really knew you, because you're dull and weird anyways. As you try your typical strategy, you boot up Netflix and distract yourself from these feelings, but frustration with yourself builds and you realize you have something else at your night, anything else to take your mind how awful and lonely you feel right now. You dial Alex's phone number, figuring that you spend time with her instead of being cooped up in your apartment alone. Her phone rings a handful of times before going to Wednesday. You know it's uncommon for her to go out with friends at this hour. You leave a voicemail, but end up calling again 15 minutes later. Still no response. You imagine Alex out with friends, much like you would be tonight if you weren't so horrible at socializing. Your mind wanders as you start to wander with who she wishes she might meet someone tonight. She'd rather be with someone who's able to go to parties like this with her instead of sitting at home feeling sorry for themselves. Why didn't she invite you? Have you just said no too many times? How many other Fridays have you unknowingly missed? You begin to think maybe it would be better if she met someone tonight. She's a wonderful woman and feels like a constant. You feel like a giant squirrel at nights like this. Why can't you just be normal? The next morning, Alex calls you back. She tells you that she left her phone in class and spent a boring night in her apartment too. You feel horribly embarrassed at how emotional you've gotten over mistakes and assumptions the night before. It's a cold Saturday. You just arrived at Alex's apartment. You are happy to finally see her after a week of absence due to your schedules not lining up due to work or school. You hug her in the doorway, but she breaks you away sooner than normal and sits down on the couch to take off your sneakers and lay them in the usual place, right next to hers. There's something I was hoping you would talk about, actually, she says. You instantly worry about being blindsided by breakup conversations due to the sudden shift in tone, but she quickly smiles and puts you at ease when she sees the color of your face. It's nothing bad, I promise. With that, she leads you over to the couch and sits on the other end of the facing you. So I hope this doesn't freak you out, but if you feel like things are going too fast, just tell me, she says, talks faster than usual. We seem to have a lot of weeks like this and we're really stuck. I'm thinking I'd ask, seeing things are so strong with us, what are your thoughts on maybe moving in together? It takes a few seconds to sink in and leaves You a bit shocked at what it does. You were worried she wanted to spend less time with you, not more. Do you want to, you ask? Well, I do. I mean, we have to sort out logistics and everything, but those things we can take care of. You start to walk through the steps of imagining the two of you living together, and you thought more of being able to wake up next day of her seeing her so often. However, the more you picture it, the more concerns become apparent. There are things she is insulated from, like the days you don't feel like you can even get out of bed, the nights your medication keeps you from being able to sleep. All of those moments in your head start completely out of energy, feeling like nothing. How would she handle it? How quickly would she want to get away? So she starts, what do you think? You can express your concerns. You're generally worried that what if Alex were to live with you, she wouldn't be able to deal with your days of being unable to get out of bed at nights you couldn't do anything but stare at the wall and panic. Even though you discussed your situation with her, you still feel she doesn't realize the depths of how bad it gets. It's one thing for you to deal how you feel sometimes, but it's for her to see it pop up occasionally. It's an entirely different situation to be someone to live with alongside you. Well, I'd like to, but I think it's best we talked about it a bit more before coming to a decision. Although she seems a little defeated, you make it clear that you're not making excuses and actually mean that you want to talk. You reiterate a lot of the things you told Alex that night. Although she gets a little defensive and tells you that she knows of all this already, she confirms that she is willing to help you. I feel like you forget I love you sometimes. I know that there will be bad days, and I'd rather try to work through them with you. I can figure all this out. We can figure this all together. Her words sway you, and you can't help but hold her close to you. You are definitely still depressed, but things are getting better. Whatever you're doing seems to be working. You really feel like you're taking the next steps to effect a positive change in your life. You now seem to be... it's changed. I didn't notice that at the bottom. You seem to now be enjoying seeing your therapist. Between giving you a chance to talk about things out and the CBT techniques she shares with you, you find yourself stressed out. You've been taking your medication regularly, and while you were skeptical at first, it's hard to argue with the fact that you're feeling better than you have in a long time. It's December, and you've returned to your parents' house to celebrate holidays with your family. Out the living room, you can see a gentle flurry of snow drifting down to meet the pristine blanket of white from yesterday's unexpected Christmas Eve snowfall. You quietly laugh to yourself at how incredibly cliche it seems. You seem to sit down at dinner. You can't help but know how you're surrounded by family and the overly cheekish atmosphere your mom decorations have created. You've actually made yourself feel relaxed and almost comfortable. Your mom is running around frantically checking the oven and the stockings and just generally tying to family time it up. While your dad sits at the head of the table drinking a beer and laughing with your brother Malcolm. His wife Karen is there too, who you've always gotten along with, and your parents even agree to let you bring your kitten along. She's been darting in and out of people's legs, hopping into laps all night. As you thoughtfully munch away at your turkey, listening to the conversation around you, your thoughts drift back over the last few months. You think about how hard things have gotten, replaying over and over, and how your head, some of your worst as well as some of your best memories. It seems like all of the things have just come to a head the last few months, with suddenly flurry of relationship drama and professional anxiety, social stress, and above all, omnipotent sense of weighing it seems to have increasingly become aware of. You draw out of your remembrance by your dad's familiar booming laugh as some cheeky comment Malcolm has seemed to have linked to had hit to his mark. Sitting at the table, you suddenly immerse glad of a chance for being able to ignore everything in the evening and not to struggle with trying to explain yourself for once. Fortunately, everyone seems to be content with laughing at each other's jokes and discussing favorable sports teams. For a while, you'll think you'll be able to go through dinner without any embarrassing personal intrusions, but no sooner did that thought cross your mind as the table conversation trickles off and leaving a slightly awkward silence depending on the dinner. So how are you doing these days? You ask Mom. It's such a simple question, but you seem to have answers countless amount of times recently, but you take a moment to collect your thoughts, look up, and take a break. Well, You never really thought of yourself as a fighter, even though you say it now. It sounds ugly, but looking back at the past few months where you were now, it really does feel like you've endured an immense struggle, and you look where you are now, and it's something that isn't quite pride. You still hate your job and find it unpleasant, but you are surprised to find that going to work every day is no longer an emotional challenge. You started adopting some clever techniques, like taking short 2-minute breaks every hour to break up the monotony. And you now view your job as just 8 hours short daily days, and compartmentalization technique Dr. Melvin told you about that you found actually works quite well. You know this job isn't what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you've started actively looking for other positions, even attending a couple preliminary interviews. You started to make efforts to go out with friends more. While the social scene still makes you very uncomfortable at times, you more and more are able to get yourself to enjoy the company of friends. In fact, your relationship with many of them has increased over the past little while. You definitely have days where you flake out or don't feel like hanging out, but for the most part, your friends are understanding and appreciate your communication. By far, the biggest change you've noticed in your life has been your relationship with Alex. You were terrified of talking to her and everything at first, but you look back and you feel like you only strengthened your relationship. She's always supported you emotionally, but lately the two of you have been even more in sync, and you really started to feel like you're building a life together. It even seems like the two of you have been making more concentrated effort to sync up your schedules and have been spending more and more of your downtime with each other. Pretty soon you think moving in together may be a very real possibility. Dr. Malone has commented on how well you seem to be doing and whether it's a result of the very concentration or both, but you can't argue. But you can't help but agree, sorry. Can't help but agree. If I could read, it would help. With all that seems to be improved, something sometimes difficult for you to think about the fact that you still have bad days, sometimes even really bad days. A severe, stark reminder to the fact that there will be something like you'll have to deal with the rest of your life. Depression is a battle, and although you are certainly ahead of the fight, you know the battle isn't ever going to be over. Sometimes even Alex tells you when things are going rough, despite your best efforts to the contrary. Well, you know that depression can never be cured. You have a very strong support network on your friends and even Malcolm. And armed with your newfound confidence in your friends and family, you accept that the road may be rocky, at least very little solitary. You meet your mom's gaze from across the ground. I'm good, Mom, you tell her. She says nothing, but you can feel her smile from across the room. Okay, I'm just going to move this down so I can read this a little bit. We really want to thank you for taking the time for the Depression Quest. We realize this may not be the most enjoyable game you've ever played, but for the earnest, we sincerely appreciate your involvement. Like Depression itself, Depression Quest does not have an end, really. There's no neat solution to resolution depression, and it's the most important that Depression Quest now resolution reflect that. Instead of tidy ending, we want to just provide a series of outlooks to make move forward. After all, what we really do with depression, it keeps moving forward, and at the end of the day, it's our outlook and our support from people like you that makes all the difference in the world. Thanks again. Okay, that's the end of the game, guys. I'm gonna take a sec. I'm gonna get real. And I talked about it at the beginning, and guys, if you feel down, and I'm sorry if this game brings a couple of you down, seek help, and that's kind of what I kept clicking on because I knew that was the answer to the thing. I'll even take the glasses off and talk, so I'm not hiding anything. I'm even getting teary-eyed because this was hard. It was a hard game, and like I said in the game, it kept bringing back my history and my battles, and you know, unlike this game, I wasn't 20 and I didn't, I was the first time I was 14, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I was gonna end it, and it was hard, and I had no friends. I was very, very much disliked in high school. It wasn't even high school then, it was middle school, and every day was a struggle like this, like they talk about. It was a struggle, and days I just didn't want to get out of bed, and it was hard, but I finally told somebody, and I told somebody that I appreciate my life. They've been a big support, and I've told them multiple times that I don't know, right? I probably wouldn't be alive without them. And it's that started the path to getting it fixed. I went through therapy for 2 years, year and a half, maybe. Maybe it was about a year and a half, and it was no medication because I was young. I was 14, 15, and the recommended age was, they said 16, but if you really could wait till you're 18, because the mind of a preteen, not preteen, a teenager, and that can be so delicate and can throw you off. And it helped, and I got better at that time. At 15, 15 rolled around, 16 rolled around. Everything started to come back, and it was 3 times harder than what it was before. And I severely hated school. Like, I found any excuse not to be at school or to do something other than think about school. I played, I'm not the typical nerd. People, I think, kind of look at me and go, "Oh, you're a nerd." No, I was actually I was very athletic in high school. I played video games, and no problem. I played video games my whole life. But I played 4 sports a season, because at that time when I was in high school, we had summer baseball. So I played football in the fall, hockey in the winter, track in the spring, and high school baseball in the summer. But nothing ever cheered me. Things would cheer me up every little bit, every once in a while, and it just wasn't right. And it just was getting worse, like I said. And now I'm getting better because so at 17, it was the football season. It was right around this time. Actually, and it's random that I remember this, and kind of random I'm playing this right now, but maybe it's just bringing back the memory. I tried to commit suicide. Well, let me tell you how I did it. I took half a bottle of aspirin, and I was gonna end it. Most people don't know this, even people around me didn't know this. There was a note, and it was there, and I knew where it was, and it was next to the bed. It just saying that I couldn't do this anymore. It was too hard, and that I had no friends, and that I ended up getting sick, throwing pretty quickly and throwing them all up. And that was, the change in my life. I told my parents the next day, and they seemed to, they were hurt because I didn't tell them, and I knew better than that, and I've always known better than that, that I should have told them sooner, and I didn't, and it did get as bad as it did. Now, then it was decided that I had been in the same school district then from now on, from my whole life, up to my junior year, the first quarter of my junior year. It was then decided the best interest for me was to change schools. I went to a small private school. I got counseling at that time, again from the same person that counseled me when I was 14. So 2 years later, she was still open, and so we knew the circumstances, we knew everything. It was at that point it was decided that I would start antidepressants. And it was hard, I didn't really tell a lot of people. I didn't, I kind of kept it close to the chest. Of course, my parents knew, my brother and sister knew, and a select group of people, probably about 5 people, knew the truth. When people asked me why I transferred out, it was that I didn't tell them. I just said, I needed to change the pace of my life. I felt it was the right decision in my life. So that's what I did. I went there. It was a tiny. I went from school. My class was 130, I think, at the time. I might be a little off, and people might correct me, but I can't remember. To a class of 4. I was a small high school. We had 15 students, and that's including the 8th grade. 7th grade? 7th grade. Yeah, 7th grade, because there was no 8th. And that was a really big change for me. And looking at little different things in life. And like I said, on antidepressants. At that also time, like this, I'm surprised I didn't bring it up with the sleeplessness. And also, I was on sleep medication. And I was on pretty heavy sleep medication. That was near the end, though, when it started. I guess that started later, and I'll explain that. Things were going good, except for a few people. There were a few people that I really couldn't stand, and I've actually, all these people that made me upset, I've actually cut them really out of my life. I don't even connect with them. I don't even want to be anywhere near them, because I was like, you guys are so negative, please just get away from me. And they made me down. People, I think, just tried to make my life miserable, and at that time, that wasn't what I needed. But I don't think they knew that. I've always tried to be friendly, as I am here. I'm as friendly with you guys as I am with everybody. I can, you hit me on Twitter. That's who I am. I'm not. There's no anyone fake. There's no anyone here. This is just me. So near the end of the year, I had a very big relapse of being extremely depressed, like back almost to square one where I was, 6 months prior to that, because I was like, end of the school year that happened. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't sleeping, and so they put me on sleep medication. Well, at that point, it was discussed with my parents and myself, and also I had my therapist and my counselor, that we would switch again to a 3rd school. We talked about maybe going back to the one, but maybe that just wasn't right to go back to where I started, because all the same people were there to begin with, but now this new place wasn't the option for me. I really didn't tell anyone that we were leaving. It was a small private school when I left, and I kind of told people last minute, I'm just not coming back for my senior year. I think it's kind of weird, I'm not coming back, but it's just, again, the same thing. Kind of, this wasn't the right place for me at the time, and it was difficult. And going back to that original challenge of I don't belong anywhere, and just the complete like uselessness I was feeling at that time. So that summer, my mom had an idea that I would attend the school district that she taught at, and which was fine. It was, because it was a small one again, but not as small as not as small as the second one, but it was, I think there were 60 of us that graduated. And that year was a challenge, but also with, I was in therapy once every 3 weeks with my counselor, and on sleeping medications, which, that was hard. Sleeping medication's hard, guys. People talk about, scripting drugs. I wouldn't even imagine doing that to myself. Those suckers, I rarely ever took them because they were hard on the body. I couldn't wake up. I'd sleep for 8 hours, 10 hours, wake up, and I'd be back, feel like I need to go back to bed. So, as I talked about, I love sports, if you don't know that. And because I had transferred schools, they didn't allow me to play varsity sports. I could play on JV, which was fine. It was interesting. So I played JV football, um, JV basketball. Baseball came around, and because that school had spring baseball, it just wasn't working out. It was causing problems in my life, and problems in my life that I didn't need. Uh, it it just wasn't for. It just wasn't. It wasn't the stress I needed at the time. I wasn't playing as a senior. I was getting frustrated, and it wasn't depression. It was just frustration and just something I didn't need. And the second I quit, I actually felt weight off my shoulder come off. And that's, even when I talk to my parents, I'm like, I'm gonna quit baseball. They get reluctant, like, why are you doing this? You have all this. I'm like, it's needed, and it dropped because my parents knew that if I was saying I needed it and I don't need to be there, it's causing problems. It was the right choice. So from that point, graduated. Um, one accomplishment in my life I didn't know I didn't figure I was gonna make after dealing with depression the first time and second time. I didn't know if I was gonna make it to that. Graduated at 18 because I have a September birthday, so my birthday rolls around right at the beginning of the school year, so I was 18 the whole time. My senior year, I still look at the diploma and I realized that at some point in my life I didn't think I was gonna make that, and how much I've accomplished in life. During the summer, with the medication, my therapist said, I really don't need this. The counselor says, I think you're really helpful in the summer because you seem happy. I don't think we need to meet, and that was fine. That was something my parents, myself, the counselor, and the doctor therapist described is staying on the medication because I seemed to be coping all right. And when I had quite a bit of medication left, about probably you get a 90-day supply, so 30 days, and that was the summer I ended. We talked about what I was going to do, and I didn't know what I was going to do right out of high school. At that point I was a little lost in life. I'd accomplished my goal of graduating high school. I thought, maybe I'll be a teacher, but, I didn't know what was going to be in my life. And it had been long and hard. I applied a couple schools and they said no, and, I understood because I wasn't, with all this, I wasn't a good student. Like I said, I didn't never liked high school. I never did. And people, people in life, they go, high school is the best time of my life. I'm like, that's sad for you. I feel bad for you. If that's the best time of your life right now. I hated high school. I told them that. I'm like, I hated high school with a passion. I was debating about taking a year off and going to work, doing something fun for a year, or going to school. In the end, it was, after talking with a few different people, best idea for me was to go to school. Now, I didn't go to a 4-year, I went to a 2-year. I went to 2-year in, I still live in Wisconsin, so small 2-year school in Wisconsin. It had a dorm, so I was 3 hours away from home. So it was a little interesting. Still on my medication, like I said, I still had a couple of refills of my medication left, so they wanted me to fill that out, complete that, and get that done. That time, I went to school, said freshman year. I didn't do well. School's not my thing, and it never has been. It's been a struggle. I struggle with school very much. But it was so much better. At one point I was in college. I'm just lying in my dorm room, and I'm like, I'm better. And I met friends that I don't talk to you guys I don't talk to my friends as much as I want to some of them, and I'm sorry, and that's my fault. I want to communicate with more of you guys, and it's just the way it is. It's just school or life and school life and kids, and that doesn't help. And it was it was an epiphany year for me. I didn't do well in school, and that's just when this isn't the school for me. I did meet excellent people and excellent friends that I still am excellent friends with today, and I did meet my future wife, and that was a big support in my life, was having this girl that loved and wanted to be with me, and just, hey, I need you to just, like in this story, just need to chill, and can we just watch movies? And, we're still like that today. As I said here in the end, and then I ended off the medication, obviously medication, and I realized, it takes a while to come off that out of your system. It's probably a month it's fully until it's out of your system. And at that month, they do worry about you, because it's that second your body, you don't just take the pill and you stop it. You cut it down to halves, then fourths, and then you can cut that down even more. And it's because you need to slowly draw that out from your body. And that's what I needed. And I had great support from everybody, and I was able to come off. And I've been off. That's 19 now. It's 19 then, not now. I'm 28 now. It's been 9 years, almost. 8, let's say. No, yeah, it's almost been 9 years. I'm getting to 10 years of being off that. And there are days that are harder than normal. I'm gonna tell you guys that now, and like I said in the story, there are days that will be a struggle, and there are days that everything kind of creeps back, and in your head, all those thoughts come back. But it's the training that you get. That's why counseling is the best. Counseling's a great option. I know people who can't always afford it, but having someone to talk to, that is so helpful, because that trains you how to deal with that. When I get even though I get those feelings, like, what I know what that feeling is, I gotta stay away from it, and I can't think about it, and I just gotta enjoy life. And now I'm enjoying life. I enjoy doing this, and I'm glad in my life I took the steps to do this, and I'm actually glad I found this game here. I'll put my glasses on because I can't see without them, unfortunately. And I know this video it's going on 2 hours, but if it's something that it does, you want to watch, and at the end, if you just want to fast forward this and you see my nearly crying on here, because it's pretty emotional. That's my life. If you guys need somebody to talk to, if you need someone to just, hey, message, I'm always here from you. Leave a comment in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm open to messages. I purposely leave that for people. I tell people all the time, if you need someone to talk to, because I've been there, guys. I've been there. I've been through the hardest of hards. I've been there for other people. I've helped other people out, and people sometimes look at me like, how do you know that? I'm like, I've gone through this, and I don't go through the big long story like I have here, but I've gone through, I was on the medication. I understand I was going through all that. And it's at that point people go, oh, and they understand that, life hasn't always been peachy and rosy, but your life will get better. And I think that's what I want to tell people, and that's what I've told people. I watch Markiplier, and when he talks about depression, and people go on there and like, I need help with it, I need guidance, and I try to respond, and when I see those, and I'm like, I know where you've been at 14 and all that, and you're like, my life is ruined. It's like, no, it's not ruined. It's hard times, and getting out of that ditch is hard, and it's a fight. But that fight is worth doing, because life's not over at 14. I'm 28. I'm doing something that I love. I have people that love me. understand that at 14 I could never imagine what I was doing in life. So I hope, playing this game, if you see me, if you watch this game and they play, I hope it helps. If at the end you listen to my full talk about it and that helps, and share personal story, I hope that helps. If you need someone to talk to, someone to just chat with, my phone's always near me. My phone right here. It's right here. It's blinking because someone's trying to message me. No, it's just work messaging me. So, I'm almost always available. And if not, I will get back to you as ASAP as I can. It's usually the same day. So, I just hope that people turn away from the killing themselves and all that, and then the anger, the depression, and and I hope this has helped you, and I hope that you see that life isn't bad. Your life can suck right now, and I'm gonna tell you, your life's gonna suck, but it will get better if you want it to, and you just maybe need a little help, maybe just therapy, and maybe medication as well, but it will help, and it will come through. I'll see you guys again. Thank you. And please, again, if you need to reach out to somebody, I am here.